We are at record. I'll be right back.
Okay. So how's everybody tonight? Is this like the longest class ever? It's like, did this start like last July or something?
Time keeps on ticking.
I know, it's like this class, and then I'd have to go do this, and we have, but I just don't want anybody else teaching it, you know? I really would not unleash you people on other teachers.
You must acknowledge Sissy Boy on the board behind you.
You're going to have to watch the party.
Oh, yeah.
Going on behind
Oh my God. Okay, so yeah, that's quite a picture for people to be seeing.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I take that off, do you think?
No. It is what it is. Use it.
If you end up using it, you'll have
Sissy Boy, according to Troward. Works perfect. Okay, so this is class 9 of 10 classes that started in September. Okay, so let's all take a deep breath. And I'm going to invite you to just get real present here, to just drop everything in your mind, to just let yourself decompress. Drop your day, drop your month, drop your week, drop your life. Okay? Drop the future, what you think's coming up. Just, yeah, no problem. No problems, nothing. Just allow yourself to be this perfect representation of this now energy. All there is now, and then now, and then now. And so in this present moment, what I know is that there is pure joy. There is pure enjoyment, being in the joy of living. And I know that that joy is expressed here tonight as wisdom, as intelligence, as divine understanding, as questioning, as answering, as the journey itself. Just life constantly evolving and moving, playing out upon itself, all of many facets of this beautiful thing we call mind. And so with this, I know that every single person here tonight, whether in the room or virtually or watching this later, every single person that is part of this discussion, this spiritual evolvement of discussion, literally allows themselves to be open, to receive, to be calm and peaceful, and to literally live in this enjoyment of this process. And so I am so grateful to everybody here, so grateful to Thomas Troward, all of the mystics and the wise minds that have brought all of this together, and to each one of us for taking it and expanding it even further. And with this, I just say thank you, thank you, thank you, and I just release, meaning I just allow. I allow the law to do what it does inevitably. I allow this thing called spirit to just do what it does because that is its innate capability. And I just step out of the way and let it be so. As together we all say, and so it is. All right. Y'all good? Thank you for last week for allowing me to, take that week off because I clearly needed to. Okay, so here we go. Chapter 9. I always love a chapter's title when it's conclusion. So there's a lot of concludings here that I think are going to be very interesting for all your minds. Yes? Did you bring more oranges? No, just kidding. Did everybody have his oranges? This. I swear to God, your tree in your backyard is a sugar tree. Has anybody else had the oranges? It's like the sweetest oranges I've ever had in my entire life. Ever. Right. So, and that's because
You sold me.
now you're like, how did I not get those oranges? Yeah. But here's the thing about those oranges. I honestly think, first of all, that they're organic. They're just doing what they naturally do. And it's exactly what Troward, I'm going to literally parlay this right into Troward. It's exactly what Troward is teaching us. It's exactly what Troward is saying. There is this natural evolution that when we get out of the way of it, it produces the most amazing results, like those orange trees. And you guys just let that orange tree grow. And he happens to be married to a woman who's like, a hippie from the 70s who just sings Flower Child songs to it all day, I bet, right? So, conclusions. Here's number 1. And what I want tonight to be about is you all to listen to these conclusions and see where they sit, see where they land, see what you think. And that same is true for all you guys online. Oh, Liza, you look beautiful tonight. You don't look happy, but you look beautiful. Good for you. Look at the colors, like it's perfect. Okay. Up to a certain point in time, Troward says, everything was a product of race conditions, evolution. Up to a certain point in time, everything was a product of race conditions, evolution. Why is that? Why would it be that up to a certain point in time, everything just kind of evolved? And based on the conditions that they were evolving in, that led them to, and that means mankind too, just evolved based on the conditions that were going along. Why is that? There wasn't enough focused consciousness. That sound good? What do you think, Eric?
Or it's just part of the natural progression.
It is part of the natural progression. That's true. Eric, what do you think?
He's saying this includes human beings.
Oh, yeah.
He's saying that human beings at one point weren't as conscious as we are now.
Exactly. What?
It's a theory. I mean, it's.
I think they were conscious. The level of consciousness, however, was at a certain place, and it continued to evolve. And if we're talking about the kingdoms, as Troward talks about, what is the fifth kingdom? Do you remember what the highest of consciousness? But what happens in the fifth kingdom?
We understand that our power is to create.
That's actually in the fourth kingdom.
That's hard to get to the fifth.
Yes, right. Just like Carnegie Hall. Practice. All right? It's just, yeah. But so what is the fifth kingdom then? The fourth kingdom is understanding I am the creative mind of God.
It's cosmic consciousness. It's the oneness of all that is. You attain oneness.
That's the fifth kingdom. So what Troward is saying is, at a certain point in time, all of mankind, animal, trees, everything just kept evolving until there was this point where man became so conscious of him or herself that he actually started taking over the conditions in some respect. Certainly the individual conditions, because this whole book is about your individuality. That up to a certain point, man didn't know that it could literally control its own evolution in terms of how it experienced life. That doesn't change evolution at its natural core. It doesn't change the fact that we are always going to evolve no matter what. But there was a certain point in time, he says here, and he says, next phase is the individual waking up and becoming aware of his or her power to create through the creativity of mind. So we get to this certain point in our lives when all of a sudden someone comes along and gets it. Aristotle, I think, therefore I am. My mind is thinking. Therefore, I'm actually thinking and creating as I move through life. So that's what he's talking about. So as he's talking about a conclusion, I stayed away from the earlier part of what his conclusion was, which is the self-contemplation of spirit. That the macrocosm, because to be honest, I'm not sure I 100% buy the whole idea of God creating through the self-contemplation of spirit, meaning that he seems to think he's teaching a scientific lesson, but I don't necessarily believe it's a scientific lesson. I think it's another way of saying the Adam and Eve story, but in his way, which sounds pretty good. But energy always produces. Energy is always creating and always moving forward. Make sense? Okay, so next phase is the individual waking up and becoming aware of his or her power to create through the creativity of mind. Well, if in the macrocosm of life, the universe constantly creates just through the contemplation of spirit, just as mind contemplates, it creates, same thing for me, same thing for you, same thing for you, right? We're all on board with that. I create, my mind creates, yes? Okay, so what he's saying is, at some point in time, mankind woke up. I mean, we're in this room, aren't we? It's 2016, and we're in this room, and we're all listening to this book. We're all listening to this. We're actually all contemplating how we create our lives, yes? So somewhere along the line, we evolved to this state of mind. I don't think 200 years ago you'd find a classroom like this, where people were talking about the power of the mind and how we create. You just wouldn't. So obviously, we have evolved to a certain state. Now, that's not to say 200 years ago there weren't people that already knew this. It's like the 100th monkey. You all know the 100th monkey, right? No? Who doesn't know the 100th monkey? Okay, so the 100th monkey is this theory that all these monkeys on one island and all these monkeys on another island, and the monkeys were like starving. There was no water that they could drink. And on this one island, finally some monkey, I'm doing it my own way, but some monkey dropped a coconut and it cracked open and went, oh. And as soon as 100 monkeys figured that out on this island, the other island got it. Because mind, there's only one mind. So as soon as mind is saturated with an idea, everybody's mind has it. Because we're all one mind. That's the theory of the 100th monkey. So it's the same thing here. As we continue to evolve and grow, mankind evolves and grows as a whole. And that's what Troward's so big on. We don't just grow individually. You can't grow individually by yourself because you aren't by yourself ever. I'm always connected to Jason. I'm always connected to Sandy, right? That's just the way this works. You know what? I didn't even introduce you. Do you want to introduce yourself to the class?
Mike McKeely from Boston. I was with James at LACRS at the beginning.
It's Dr. Walker's old church.
Really pleased to be here.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
So he goes to the CSL in Austin, Texas.
Oh, wow.
Yes, with Walt Brewer.
He was also rather brilliant.
Yes, he is. I love him. I love him.
Were you in classes together?
No, he came a little bit after me, a couple years after me. So, sorry, I'm looking at you going, did I say your name? No. So are we all on the same page? Do we all agree with this concept, Craig?
Yeah. A couple things. I have a question. First of all, the notion of the 100th monkey thing. There is a David Bohm, another physicist, proposing a morphological resonance or a morphic field idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's out there. The 100th monkey thing has been, I think it's been pretty well debunked, including the guy.
I love it. Everything you know, everything that's been debunked.
But Bohm's still provocative, and then a question I have for you is the fifth kingdom idea. You spent some time immersed in Buddhism, where you said at one point.
Oh, yeah.
So would you equate the fifth kingdom with the Buddhist notion of enlightenment, or Zen
Nirvana?
notion of enlightenment? Or
Yes, actually. And if you were in the Science of Mind 400 ministerial class, they just presented on Buddhism, and that was one of the things that came up. So the Troward's fifth kingdom and Buddhism, enlightenment, and nirvana, which I think is Hinduism. So yeah, it's all the same.
The sound is all the way up, but they're having trouble hearing, so we need to talk about
hearing me?
No, the class.
Oh, that's fine.
Speak up.
Sorry, they missed.
Craig, you're kidding. If you bring this down a little
Speak
bit,
up.
it won't. If you bring it down a little bit, it's not over their heads. I think.
Yeah, good choice.
I just think the term raise it down makes me laugh.
Okay. So let's go to his next thing that he brings up here for conclusion, which is the power of thought. How powerful? Give me on a scale of 1 to 10. I want you to tell me how powerful you think your thought is. And I won't even elaborate until I get some numbers. Eric?
8.
Okay.
How powerful it is or should be?
What was the question? How powerful is your thought?
10.
Is. Not should be.
I'm going to stick with 10.
Okay, good for you. Okay. Gary?
I don't know, 6, 7.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a 10, powerful in both directions.
Meaning you can create good and create things that don't work so
I
well.
can see it manifest.
Oh,
very
it doesn't.
quickly.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're creating stuff that works for you or doesn't work for you. That doesn't change the power of the thought.
Right.
What thought you choose is your problem. It's all of our problems. David?
10.
10.
Okay. Jason?
It's funny that it is a 10, but it's also part of a power that works with it. There's an accompaniment to the power. Does my thought, like it's all powerful, but it actually directs a force that I'm connected to.
Well, the thought is the force.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's like a 10, but there's that thought in my mind going, wait a second.
Wait, I'm really an 8.
I'm an 11 actually, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 1-1, of course. Sandy?
Well, at first I would have said 8 or 9, but given that you said positive or negative, I would say 10 then. Because
Okay, Michael?
depending
10,
on what
yeah.
the focus
Doug?
is on.
10.
7.5. Degree of difficulty, 2.8.
Eric?
Nice.
10.
Jan?
I would say 10, but I have something else that is interesting, that even if I do have a negative 10 thought, there is something inside me that oversees me, that doesn't, ignores that. It's still, it's 10 constant. It's
Yeah.
like,
Well, no, it's not what, and I'm not saying are your thoughts high caliber. I'm just saying how powerful is your thought.
well, yes, but even if I have a thing where I go, and I'll worry about something or something, whatever, I'll say to myself, ooh, you're gonna get in trouble if you keep that up, if you think that way.
Well, that's the power of that thought after that thought.
Right.
Yeah, but no matter what my higher good is always being managed.
Yes, and that's true. That's true. Okay, Liza? Oh, they're on here. Great.
Yeah.
Martha, 9.
10.
Devin, 10. Anthony, 9. Ray, 10. Liza?
10.
10. Okay, Laurie Savage?
10.
10? Okay.
Devin changed his mind. His is 11.
You just changed your mind to 11, Devin? I'm not
Here
sure
it
about
says
the...
1000%.
Okay,
Oh,
so...
define thought for them.
Okay,
That's
so...
saying, I found myself very aware of even throwing out. Like, there's that part of me that when it throughout the A's, in my mind knowing that it's a 10, but also the belief, sort of the old patterns of I'm just trying to be humble or second guessing or those old things.
Oh yeah, I get it. Well, here's the deal. If you think your thought is a 10, then you should be able to manifest whatever you want instantaneously. There should be no way that you could ever that you can't manifest. You want more money? It's there. If you think you're a 10, if you are a 10, it's like if I drive a Maserati, it travels at this speed because it's built to do it. That's what that does. So, because I will tell you, my mind's probably a really solid 8. Really solid 8. And I get to 10 very often.
So I have a question on that, because when you're talking about when I'm answering that question, I'm actually aligning my mind with the universal mind.
I know.
It actually has access to all power.
So good. Yes, you are.
Right.
But
as I answer your question,
and yes, and I won't say but. And when you don't,
it's still powerful. I'm just using it.
Yes, but my question was, how powerful is your thought? Because guess what? It doesn't matter that our minds are the most powerful things on the planet and we can create anything in the world with it. It matters how much of it are we accessing and how much of it do we actually believe? How much of it do we actually use? That's this whole course. The individuality, the macrocosm, the allness, the oneness of the universe, the roomy ocean is a 10.
Then the question is invalid.
The question is what?
Invalid.
Why is that?
Because it's not a question of thought, it's a question of consciousness. My thought is manifesting exactly what I believe at this moment.
I didn't say that. I said how powerful is your thought.
Is that powerful? I am.
No, your thoughts are not. Your thoughts are not.
But my consciousness must evolve to a level where I can use that power instantaneously. But it's not a question of thoughts. It's a question of
No, it is a question of thought. My question was, how powerful is your thought? I didn't go to belief yet. I said, how powerful is your thought?
I'm not talking about belief either.
Okay, your thought is only as powerful as the belief behind it, which is my next sentence. So if you say your thought is a 10, then you're telling me you have a belief behind it of a 10.
That's correct.
No, you don't always.
Yes, I do, because I'm manifesting exactly what I believe at the moment.
But your thought may only manifest at 60%.
According to what scale?
According to what you believe. That's what we teach.
And I'm saying I agree with that, because I'm believing exactly what I'm experiencing.
But what I'm asking,
it exists because I believe it.
But
so
to what
working at a level of 10.
But no, it's not working at a level. It's not working at a level of 10. It's working at whatever, because it works at whatever percentage you put behind it. I can say to myself, I am the opulence of the universe. And if I believe that 50%, I get it 50%.
But it's working.
But it's what's working 100%?
Your thought is actually going out, and
Yes.
always it's at, I think, at 100%. That's the basis of this teaching. Whether you tap into that 100%.
Oh, well, I see where you're coming from now. Okay, it's a little semantical.
Yeah.
It's kind of semantics, because then you're not allowing yourself to understand. No, because you know what? You're talking about the macrocosmic. I'm talking about the microcosmic. I'm talking about you, David Allen Cruz, the individual David Allen Cruz. How David Allen Cruz accesses the 100%. That's what I'm talking about. So I can see what you would say, but I want you to think of it the other way. Because to me, I'm not interested in the la-la land philosophy called science of mind, where everybody gets it. It's, oh, I think as I think, it all works. It does not, because that's what people aren't demonstrating. They're demonstrating from their belief of this stuff. So I can say my thought is a 10, but it's not, personally. Not when I'm only putting 60% of belief behind it. It's not coming as a 10. If 10 is the full expression of that thought, then I better be living the full expression of that thought. And that's what Troward is trying to get us to understand here. That our ability to use this science is literally predicated on how much power we put behind it. Do we have the access? Is somebody raising their hand?
Yeah,
No.
Ray he didn't raise his hand, but he put a comment in about his thought.
Okay, guys, don't use the chat. Could you get off that chat? I don't want the chat. I want you guys to be here like you're live. Just click on and interrupt me like everybody else. Okay? No more chat, Connie. No chat. You shouldn't be chatting.
Okay, in that case,
Unless someone chats and says I can't hear. So,
The chat pops up, that's why.
yeah, go ahead, Martha.
so I guess in that case, then my answer wouldn't be a 9, it'd be a 6, because really you're asking more of like what level are we operating from, as opposed to what level do I believe that my mind has the power. I get that it has the power. I'm at a 9 on that, not totally at a 10, but I get it. I'm learning. I'm creating no matter what, whether it's favorable or unfavorable to my highest and best. But if the question really is where I'm operating from, then I guess it's more like a 6.
Okay.
If I get it.
Okay.
It's determining your self-contemplation of spirit, is what he's saying. If you understand who you are, then your thought is actually going to become more powerful.
To the degree that you really understand who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
The self-contemplation of spirit. So that I know that I am that I am.
It goes back to what you say often. The relative is the absolute on the level of the relative, but it's still the absolute.
It is the absolute.
So the thought is 100%, but it's on the level of the understanding.
It's on the level of your subconscious.
Yeah.
Well, not even your subconscious. I would hope your conscious mind, but yes.
Well, but isn't it the subconscious that even if you are in the process of transforming and renewing your mind to the truth, you're still being driven at times by things that are not necessarily fully present in your conscious mind, but things that you
Absolutely.
have been in habit.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It's interesting because the title of this book is The Creative Process in the Individual, and I called this class what?
Conscious living.
Conscious living. So the truth is, most of us are operating on an equal proportion of conscious and unconscious, what we call subconscious, right? So yes, that's thank you, Martha, for clarity on your 9 to a 6. If I were to ask you, how powerful do you know the power of mind to be? I would expect everyone to give me a 10. I mean, if you're in this room, it's because you know, or at least want to know, that you have the possibility and the capability to live at 100% of what it is you want to create. Yes? Don't we all know that?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. So those are two different questions. And to be honest with you, it is a little bit of a trick question whenever I ask that question. Because most people will say 9, 10, but when pressed and say, okay, well, how are your whatever, finances? How's your love life? How's your health? Are they all at 10s? Because if they're not, then something's off.
That's why I asked, are you asking is or should be?
And that's why I said is.
But I understand,
Yeah.
but that's why I asked that question, because it's
Two, sometimes. Now, wouldn't it be nice if they weren't two different answers?
Yeah.
And that's what this whole book is about. Troward is saying to us, everything we believe about the macrocosm, we should be believing about ourselves. Every single aspect of God, we should be owning as our own. Every single thing that we think has power in the universe, we should be operating from that place. Why we're not is only because we have somehow bought into some other ideology, some other belief in ourselves, some other way of thinking, right? So moving from the fourth to the fifth kingdom is to live from this creative energy for good, to live from it. When you move into the fifth kingdom, you are actually living your life from the understanding of oneness. From this, I know who I am. Okay? Moving from the fourth to the fifth kingdom is to live from this creative energy for good by recognizing our oneness with all things. And then he says, the fifth kingdom, and I loved this that he said this, the fifth kingdom is actually called the kingdom of individuality. Now, go back to Nirvana, and who asked that question? Nirvana and what's the other one? Enlightenment. What's fascinating to me is enlightenment and nirvana in Hinduism and Buddhism, for me, it tends to feel like you kind of morph into this oneness, this feeling that just this pure, unadulterated joy and bliss and happiness, right? This place where we all just morph into this one beautiful thing. And yet Troward's saying the exact opposite. He's saying, not the exact opposite, but the kingdom of individuality. That, and this is what I mean. When Eric and Craig and Doug and I all reach this place of understanding, I know who I am, we are now fully individualized and yet so connected with one another that we know more of ourselves because I know more of myself through you. I know more of myself through you, So I don't lose my individuality. In fact, I enhance it. I grow into it. That's his idea of the fifth kingdom. And when all that happens and we throw a Heather into the mix, and she's in that group too, boom. The planet just think what this planet would be like if everybody felt that way. If everybody got there. You raising your hand or you're having a headache?
Is he saying you're either all in that or you're all not in that? Like,
No.
It's very binary thing.
He's actually saying what I was saying before. You're in it by percentages, sort of. It's like we talked about in one of the weeks where it's like everybody in this class has 1 foot in the fifth kingdom and 1 foot in the fourth kingdom, and some of you have a little toe in the third kingdom. So that's just the way where we've evolved to. I don't know a lot of fourth kingdom people. The Dalai Lama is probably a fourth kingdom person, a fifth kingdom person, except on special occasions when he gets pissed off. Who knows? He never gets pissed off? I'm sure he gets pissed off.
Well, the thing is, with the fifth kingdom, you wouldn't know who they are.
What?
The fifth kingdom person, you don't know who they are because they don't need to know.
They don't need to tell
They
you.
don't need to tell you.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Thank you. Go ahead.
I just heard an interview with him a couple of years ago, but he was saying, he was being asked by an interviewer about losing his, he was booted out of his homeland, he lost his homeland, the Chinese are going to replace him with their own Dalai Lama. The interviewer was saying, doesn't that, aren't you upset about that? And he said something, I can only paraphrase, but he said, well, they've taken my homeland, they've taken my people, they've taken my religion. What, now you want them to take my happiness too?
Oh. Does that sound like what you would say? I'd have a hard time with that. Yeah. That's good. I love that. Okay, so we all get this idea of the fourth kingdom and the fifth kingdom. Do we really get the idea, though, of this understanding of oneness, or what Troward is talking about here, which is the kingdom of individuality? See, I think it's also one of the things that I love about science of mind is that I get to keep me. I get to, and we're going to talk a little bit about this whole idea of having to go through suffering and such. But that I am important. I am what matters. It's funny. Today is Ash Wednesday. Does anybody else find that world is going way too fast? Because was it not Christmas yesterday?
Yes.
And today it's Ash Wednesday.
Yes.
So my daughter said to me just now when I went to get her, I said, how was school today? She goes, it was Ash Wednesday. It was all religion. Because she goes to a Catholic school. And she said, oh my God, Dad, you don't realize the difference between our religions until you get a holiday like Ash Wednesday. And all of a sudden you're like walking around and it's like everybody's talking about the dust and the dirt and how we're all going to end up in the dirt. She said, it was just really depressing all day. That's all they were talking about in the classroom, what Ash Wednesday meant. And I said, well, you shouldn't be depressed. You should just be really happy sitting there going, I'm not a Catholic. You should just be really happy that we have evolved to a different religion. Dolly Nora, yes. Yes, that's it. Okay, so he says, until we recognize our individuality as the one, we will stay in the generic understanding of oneness. Just think about that. Actually, I wrote this. He said generic. Until we recognize our individuality as the one, we will stay in the generic understanding of oneness. What do you think I mean by that, Heather?
You cannot possibly understand the attributes of the mother, father, male, female aspects of God unless you know yourself and know who you are, and not on a cosmic level necessarily, but on a very personal level, because you are a direct reflection of the ineffable.
That's exactly it. So, until we recognize our individuality as the one, we will stay in the generic understanding of oneness, missing the big picture and remaining in the fourth kingdom of awareness, but not transcending into that which is our true identity. Meaning, I'm going to stay in the fourth kingdom and pray to the fifth kingdom. I'm going to stay in the fourth kingdom and believe that the fifth kingdom is somehow separate from me. And the only way, as Heather just said, to really go into the fifth kingdom, to really understand it, is to understand that everything that it is, I am. And I can only experience it by being it. Not just by hearing about it or thinking about it, none of it. I experience it by being it. That's why we are so adamant here at our center. I know who I am. You know, I am God. Let's not shy away from I am God. You know, Rumi, I'm not a drop, I'm the ocean. I'm the ocean in a drop. I mean, how can I know what the ocean is unless I'm willing to take the ocean in this drop and feel it and experience it and express it and come from it? And if I'm coming from that, where's my limitations? They just can't be. It's unacceptable, unthought of. And when we think of God as infinite, we think of God as all-encompassing, all-powerful, everything I learned in Catholic school, really. God is the power of the universe. God is all there is. God is everywhere present, omnipotent. That's what we were taught in Catholic school. Well, and then Jesus comes along and says, but I and the Father are one. But we somehow morphed that into something else, that Jesus was one with the Father, not us. And so here's what we're here to really learn. Here's what we're really here to know. So what he talks about in this conclusion chapter is our ability to recognize our power. Are we willing to recognize our power and literally recognize it as one power? So I think as a species, we are very, very good at pointing to people and seeing the power in certain people. Oprah Winfrey, there's a powerful woman. You know, there's a really powerful woman, except when it comes to her weight, which she can't seem to grasp how to fix or how to deal with. Okay, but powerful woman. Or like Tony Robbins, point to Tony Robbins, what a powerful man, except when it comes to relationships, since he's on his 8th wife. You know, so, and I'm not judging these people, just so you know. But we still identify outside of ourselves there as the power. Or we point to Craig and say, look, this man won a bronze medal at the Olympics. That's power. Okay, and it is. And it was. But we have to stop thinking that power is somehow showing up out there and that someone else has it and I may not. And don't you think, how many of you during your lifetime have thought someone else has had the power and you don't? All of us at some point or another, someone has it. So recognizing this as one power is the key. Recognizing it as one as Emerson calls it, one oversoul that literally encompasses all things, when we recognize that and put ourselves in that picture, that has to be a game changer. When we not only think it, but we actually start living from it. So I have a little exercise for us tonight. And let me just count off. How many people are online?
7. No, 6.
Okay, well, Martha and those guys, they can do it at their house. And then we've got just you guys online, bless you, bless you. You guys online, I need you to talk to each other. I don't know how you do that.
I mute the room.
No, you'll mute the room and then they can talk, but I don't know how they can talk to each other without each other hearing each other. Here's the exercise, but I'm going to break you into twos. You two, you two, you two. Okay, you two, you two. Oh, that's great. You two and you two. Okay, so you'll be with Eric. That worked great. Everybody's in twos. Terrific. So here's what you're going to do. Here's the directive. When in your life did you do something that was remarkable? And I mean like remarkable. When in your life did you do something that was remarkable, even for you, and showed you that there was power present in you that you had no idea existed, at least in that form, at least in the way it came out? Okay, so let me read it again. Give it some thought. Lynn, you just took a deep breath and went, oh, Jesus. and
breathing is a good thing.
Yeah, just breathe through this. Okay, so when in your life did you do something that was remarkable, even for you, and showed you that there was power present in you that you had no idea existed? That's the key to this. Some time in your life when you were like, something happened, you were just like, I had no concept that I was capable of that. Okay?
Did something or manifested something?
Yeah, manifested, did something. Yeah. Okay, everybody clear? And you're going to get 5 minutes. So, you know, each of you take a couple minutes to tell the other person, really pay attention to what you're hearing for this exercise, what's going to happen.
Bless you.
Lori, your dog can do that too.
No, it wasn't you? Okay.
Oh, it wasn't you. Okay. Someone else's dog. Okay.
Martha.
Okay, ready? And have at it.
5 minutes, we said.
Yeah.
Okay, this right. No idea? All right. What comes to my mind, by the way, is
Connie, the room's not muted. It's not muted.
Play. I got a job. But I never decided. That's
So it's in there. It's in there.
I'm sorry. What's the meeting ID number? Sorry, Jason. Can you answer Great, thank you.
Hi, James. Can you hear me?
Lori, can you hear me? It's Terry.
Hi, Terry. Now I hear you. Oh,
Yes,
James.
you can hear me now. Yep. So who's talking?
No one's been talking so far.
Oh, you guys didn't choose sides?
No, the room wasn't muted, and
Oh, it's muted out here.
Okay, go ahead, Lori.
Oh wait, Connie, did you mute the room?
no.
Oh yeah, I can't hear anything but you guys. So go ahead.
Go ahead, Lori.
Oh, okay.
Talking about something really remarkable?
Yes, you.
Okay. I guess when I moved to California, it was pretty remarkable because I was agoraphobic and I packed up and moved 3,000 miles away when I couldn't walk around my own block.
Wow. Look at you now.
Yeah, a little bit of a difference.
A little bit.
That's great. Ray, what about you? Ray, what about you?
I'm here now, I think. You know, it's just remarkable that I made it this far, okay? I just don't have anything specific that comes to mind.
You can't think of anything in your life that you did that was like really remarkable, that you were really surprised that you were able to accomplish?
Well, I've done a lot of things, so.
So pick one. Pick one. What's a biggie?
Pardon?
What's a biggie?
Well, I know I was remarkable. I learned to fly. That was remarkable. That was.
You mean you learned to fly an airplane?
Yeah, aerobatics and flight instructor and all that stuff.
Okay.
That was remarkable, but now it's on to another thing. So.
Okay. Okay, great. Terry?
Probably the most remarkable thing I did was get married the last time. Not giving up on love after so many failures. Yeah, that truly was the most remarkable thing.
You think that's more remarkable than how you dragged yourself out of the gutter?
They're about the same. They're about the same.
getting married to Marilyn equates what you did to yourself? That, wow, okay. Well, it's your opinion, not mine.
The gutter was truly remarkable, and I guess yeah, I tend to take that for granted and forget it. You're right.
That's interesting. That's interesting because that's part of the guys. What's happening? Oh,
we're flying an airplane.
I know. Doesn't it look like it? Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much everybody. Martha is on the phone with Liza. So the only other person that's up there is
Aaron.
Aaron, what about you, Aaron?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
You know, I'm trying to think. I mean, of course, I overcame bulimia when I was 20 years old. That was very hard to do. And quite frankly, breaking it off and staying broken up with Charlie was huge for me. Of course, I've attained a lot of, miscellaneous goals, but I don't consider those like where I really had to call upon that. There's one place, I think I've said it before in class, where I was sick one time and I decided that I like literally like screamed at myself like I could not be sick at that moment in my life because I had people in town and I was up to a bunch of really big things. And I literally screamed at myself and it went away. The sickness went away that instant. I'd never experienced anything like that before.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Are we done the 5? All right, guys. Thank you.
Rory's here. I mean, I guess that's it, yeah.
No, that's it, because Martha's on the phone with Liza Marquez. Okay, guys. And we forget what we're dealing with. We forget what this power is. We forget who we are. We forget our ability to manifest and create. And some people get into a rut because they've created something at one point in their life and they don't know why they can't do it again. And yet what they don't realize is that, well, that was then and this is now. No, they don't realize that what that was is equally as available here. It won't look the same. The problem is we're trying to make it look the exact same. Right. We're trying to do it again that way. You can never do it that way. I can't do this part of the class the way I did the first part of the class. It's not the first part of the class. And that's just something to really get if you're willing to be spontaneous and allow life to live you. So here's what I want to do. So you're going to tell me, you're going to get like a 30-second synopsis, but you're going to tell me your partner's story, not yours. Okay? So I want you to share what you heard. That way the person who told the story gets to hear how it landed. Okay? So Eric.
So I think again, shared about remarkableness with a friend, and I think just really clearly seeing who they really are, and just sort of being a vessel for compassion and empathy, and sort of transcending circumstance in this person's life, and not running from circumstance, and just being with this person and with circumstance without judgment. And intellectually, it seemed like a foreign place to be or to maybe respond with that circumstance, but that it just was natural, came from within, and it was ease and grace, and commitment.
Is this your boyfriend?
How did you know?
Good.
Very well put.
How's that feel, hearing that?
Good.
Good. Good.
Good.
And what's his?
He gave a couple. I don't know which. He talked about like a lot of little creative moments where things come, you know, from within and naturally when he needed to, like some kind of creative project, a few little ones over time, and having to deal with the time and the project and the situation, that it all just seems to come together. And it all worked out creatively, whatever the project happened to be. And he said it was more like a lot of little projects along the way rather than like one situation or one circumstance.
Great. Good. Okay. It is an interesting thing when all of a sudden these projects monumentally just suddenly come together. And we like to pretend that it's out of nowhere. It just all came together, but it's not out of nowhere. Heather?
He shared about a time that was a while back that just was kind of unrivaled to any other experience that he's had. And he shared about a time when he was a dancer and loved dancing and felt like he was gifted at it, but was invited to come to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and to head up a dance department at a school where he had no language, facility, and had to come up with, a whole program, and it was well received. And he just felt like that was amazing and would love to create something like that again.
Great. How's that feel, hearing that?
At the time, that was awesome, and yes, it would be great to create something like that.
But when she tells the story to all of us, does it touch something in you? Does it feel like something?
Yeah, it feels like, how could that be?
Okay, but that's important. That's what I want you to really pay attention to. What's it feel like when someone tells your story? Do you shy away from it? You're like, oh, it's nothing. Oh, that was nothing really. Or is it touching something and like, wow, okay. Heather?
Well, Heather had a couple as well, and she was saying that she had some problems with her driver's license. It had been revoked because she had not paid a ticket, that somehow she did not have a car, and she was still trying to do go different places or whatever. But the amazing thing was she focused her mind, which we all know she can do, and she found the money and restored her license. A car apparently appeared out of nowhere, but through
a new car.
A new car, and at the same time, she was, through a friend, was given an opportunity to meet with producer for, I guess, some work, very prominent producer. And she attributes this all to focusing and knowing what she wanted very clearly. And
cool. That's great. 2014. Okay. David?
Becky told me the story of the time when she was preparing to have her fourth child, and she decided that this time she was going to do it in a very special, very specific way. And in order to do that, she needed to get some support, particularly from her husband, who at first was doing the right things and doing the support. But when challenged to fully back up Becky at what she wanted, and to advocate for her at the doctor, her husband said, I can't do that, I'll side with the doctor. And so Becky said, no, that's not what I'm going to allow. And Becky did the research, she found people, spoke with people, discovered a doctor that would support what she wanted, created the space in Kaiser to allow her to do what she wanted to do and have the baby the way she wanted to have the baby, because the alternative was going to be, and if you don't, I'm going to do it in the back room of this doctor's office. and Becky succeeded in having the birth experience the way she wanted it to be. The aha moment was the very fact that she said, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to buck the system. I'm going to do it in a way that's contrary to what everybody's wanting me to do. And I didn't know I could do that.
Oh, Becky?
When I hear him say that, you know, it was so strong. I didn't realize I was that strong.
Right.
But, yeah.
But you are.
David related experiences, and he did it in a way that had sort of an innocence behind it, because it was something that he expected but wasn't a big deal. He was focused. He would come to the end of something and something new needed to happen. That was what he knew. And then he didn't necessarily know what it was, but he knew he needed to move forward, and he counted on that. And in counting on it, it arrived. He was offered another position on a cruise ship while he was singing in Palm Springs, and he knew that he wanted to move forward from that. And he had an 11-year-old son at the time, and they said, we'll just bring him along. So he went ahead and did that for quite a while and thoroughly enjoyed it. There was another issue sometime later when something else came up that wasn't quite as pleasant. But by that time, he'd been in this teaching for a while, and he used those tools, and within a short period of time, remedied it. The thing that struck me was it was a very straightforward, okay, this is here, this needs to be done. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen. And so he has moved into his life that way.
Cool. Did it surprise you first time?
The first time, those examples were all the times that I experienced such things before. The first time, I'm sure it did. I guess that one of the first times was when I ended up going to UCLA the year I would have graduated from high school, except I already dropped out of high school.
Huh?
And things of that nature have happened for me throughout my life. I didn't know how it was happening, but I learned to trust that such things would happen. Now I know what it was. Because I had said to myself, I'm dropping out of high school, but I'm still going to college.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking East LA Community College. Turned out to be UCLA. And these kinds of things have happened to me throughout my life, to the degree where I'm like, I'm not going to say that I don't have any, reactions, fear reactions, or any of that kind of stuff, but I know that when something is needed, it will appear.
Mm-hmm.
Where I know if something is happening, this will pass, and something bigger and better is on its way.
So your faith has made you whole.
Faith is
Pretty much. And you're still doing that, because here you are, I'm going to be a minister, even though I'm not a practitioner. I'll figure this out. And there you go. Yeah, it just doesn't stop, doesn't it? Miss Connie?
View for me.
It is. It actually is. Coming down is, look how good that view is, see? I could go a little further. There we go. Yeah.
Well, all right. So Jason related a story to me of a time when he wasn't necessarily as motivated or productive as he thought he could be or should be at the time. And he got to a space where he finally went, I got to get out of this. I have to change this. And he left his home, which happened at the time to be a garage, and went and found, so he didn't find, it found him. He had a play to do, and he had, when the play finished, someone said, hey, let's go to LA. And he said, okay, I'm going to go to LA. And he picked up his life and moved it into this motivationally productive space. and created this whole new life for himself in a place where he had no tethers and ties to. He had no regular supports that we would all reach out and hope for. He just went, yep, gonna do this, and he jumped and he went, and it was good for him. Clearly.
Good. And you seem to still be doing that.
Here. They haven't taken me away from LA yet. Hi, everybody. The man behind the camera. So Connie, she at first didn't have a story. She had to, I can't think of anything. And then she had two of them. And one of them was a certain situation happened that was a financial setback. I won't go into the details for everybody, but it was a situation where that could really rock your world. And it's in knowing that all is unfolding perfectly, she knew and held her mind in a place that the result, what could be detrimental, she wasn't accepting any kind of that mindset. She said no, and it's going to work out just perfectly. And it did. And she realized how powerful she is. And then she shared another story about her ex-husband, her first husband, and powerful.
How's that feel? Are you going to cry?
No.
No, that's good.
She is powerful.
She is.
For a while, so.
Sandy and Michael. Sandy?
Michael shared a story of when he was working on a film project to get a film moving, and things weren't really, forgive me if I'm forgetting some of the details, but the gist of it was that the film wasn't moving. And he had a thought or an insight that came in that it could be a stage production. And not knowing how, or I guess there were some questions there of how that could possibly happen, just trusting and faith in that it would. And things started showing up and moving it forward. And, with that faith and belief in the idea was able to move it forward.
Good. Okay, great. Michael?
Pretty well.
Yeah.
You want me to give Sandy's story?
Yes, please.
Yes. Well, anyone from the Midwest or East will relate to this. And when she was very young, her mother used to wrap her up. Reminded me of Christmas Story, the movie. But she didn't like being constrained and bundled. So she broke out of that and discovered as a child that she didn't have to get sick. When she released herself from being wrapped up after she left the house. And yet her mother, if she went out and didn't have a headscarf on, always got a cold. So Sandy, at a very young age, is laying the groundwork for what we're all about, actually.
Yeah. And you're never sick.
No, I'm not. And
Oh, God.
I literally
Sure.
remember the day that my mother bundled me up in this purple parka type jacket with the fur on the hood and tied it so tight. And I was arguing with
So
her.
it is like that. What's that Christmas story?
Yeah.
I love that story.
I don't need this hood. Yes, you do. You'll get a head. She would call them head colds. And she wore kerchiefs all the time, even on not a cold day, but cool breeze.
Yeah.
I remember, and it was kind of snowy. It was winter in Jersey. And I remember walking out the porch down the street a short way, and I'm like, she can't see me. And I remember untying that hood and taking it down and saying, no, I will not get sick.
Yeah. Well, we all know now you don't get sick that way.
But, you don't realize you're doing it at the time. But looking back,
That's cool. Eric?
interesting.
Yes, so Jan told the story of when she was working at Amgen, and at a particular meeting she made a suggestion about something that she thought maybe could be done differently, and the next thing she knew, she was being offered this unbelievably huge responsibility to create this whole endeavor that would involve her overseeing all these different people and all these different moving parts, just way more responsibility and impact than something that she had been doing before. And she was a little overwhelming at first, so she kind of closed her eyes and said, if this is the best thing for our patients and for Amgen and for me to be doing this, let this happen. And it just happened in this miraculous way where just every part worked, every person, every department. It had this unbelievable return on investment way beyond what the company demanded it to have for her to do this. And it became this thing that just launched her into doing more and more stuff like that.
Cool. Okay, Jan.
You made me sound so important.
Thank you, Craig. What did you say? It makes you what?
I said, oh, you made me sound so important.
Does it feel like that when you hear the story?
The joy I had, I felt from Eric the joy that I felt doing the project and succeeding.
Yeah.
And I think you really felt that from me.
Yeah.
And the shock and surprise that it actually
Worked. Yeah.
Now, Eric's story is amazing, very amazing. And
I'll come here so you can look into the camera.
Mm.
Go ahead.
He was working in an office, in Tom Hanks' offices,
Sorry.
and he was like an assistant, but he was doing comedies and writing. We got the opportunity. Tom Hanks read his work, and he brought him in and offered him this life-changing experience to be a writer and also a producer of an HBO series, which
Called.
called The Moon, the Earth, from the Earth to the Moon. I have the moon in there, and it won an Emmy.
Yes, it did.
So
Yeah, it did.
That's pretty amazing.
And how's that feel hearing that?
Feels good. It's like my go-to story. I've told the story so many times. It's no longer like, wow, hearing that story does something to me. It's like it's a stale story at this point.
Is it?
Because I tell it to like speak to groups of writers.
Oh, right. You have to talk about, yeah.
Like my bio.
Do you think you could tap into what that really felt like?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we all can.
Yeah.
So interesting.
You're awesome.
Yes, you are. So is your writing. Craig?
Doug is an attorney who specializes in real estate, and circumstances from the other party that he was working with, they compelled him to go to court just to settle this. So from a real estate perspective, circumstances conspired to put him in a courtroom in front of a jury for 7 straight days.
Oh.
Wow.
And the experience, which my thought would be, terrifying, he found himself filled with enthusiasm and feeling kind of blessed as he went over the hill from the valley over Topanga Canyon down to the ocean and down to the Santa Monica courthouse every day, feeling blessed to be able to walk in there and do this. And for 7 days, he said he worked really like the whole time working, but it never felt like work. It just felt like kind of a joy. And then the thing went his way in the end. So it really was a remarkable experience.
So it was like a real Jimmy Stewart moment. Good. How's that feel?
It felt good to hear it.
Yeah, right? Okay, good. Can you turn this way when you tell the story? Give that big, that award-winning smile. Yes, that's perfect.
Go to Las Vegas and see those billboards of the lawyers out there. They're all teeth.
So go ahead.
None of them are real estate. Lawyers.
They are all actually lawyers.
Craig had 2 amazing stories, but the one that I really was most drawn to was the perfect dive. Off a 9-meter board, if I were on a 9-meter board looking down, there'd be all sorts of things going on. This was a culmination of a lot of work and a lot of training, but he hit a zone where he wasn't thinking, he was just doing what he knew so well to do, and he did this perfect dive, and that statement is backed up by the fact that year you won the U.S. National Championship, and 2 years later he got a bronze medal in the Olympics. But in that moment, however long it is off the top of a 9-meter board into the water, which for me would be an eternity. He was in this, everything was working just right. It was just the perfect dive.
Oh. And what's that feel like hearing that for the 7 millionth time, Kurt?
Well, it's such a mishmash, you know. Oh yeah, one more diving story, but it feels pretty good it feels pretty good. It feels good.
Okay.
Amazing experience.
I know this seemed a little longer than Liza. Do you want to go and tell me what you heard from Martha?
Sure. I think she and I had very similar
Oh,
stories.
hold on.
What's up?
Go ahead.
Eric. Miss you, Erico.
He misses you too. Now talk.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting for you. Okay. So I think Martha and I had very similar stories in the sense that we've done a lot of remarkable things, and she, you know, she's taught a bunch of students, and she's coached a lot of students and inspired a lot of people. But the most remarkable thing that she feels that she's done is to be a mother, to give birth to her beautiful, wonderful son, of who he is, really seeing what an amazing mother she is, not in a prideful, like, I'm such a good mom, but really feeling, you know, from the bottom up, what an amazing job she's done at something she maybe wasn't at the time, or at least she thought she wasn't prepared to do. And we both agreed that it was one of those things that it's all the remarkable things that have happened in the past. This is one of those things, parenthood, and that just, it's like an orb of love that just grows. It's an experience that keeps growing and growing. It's not just like one experience that we treasure, and that's not to demean any of the other experiences that we've had in life, but it's just really great to see how it just continues to grow with so much love.
Great, good. Okay, Martha?
Yeah. That was really cool to hear that.
And
yeah.
there he is, right behind you.
Taking up the whole couch.
That's
his little anymore.
Yeah, that when I took him to the ER, the doctor was like, he doesn't even fit on the bed. We did. That feels really good to hear, and it was really good to talk to her about it because of the fact that we had similar stories, and we both really get a chance to, you know, it wasn't like a one-time thing. It wasn't something that like just, not to diminish any of the amazing things that have been once or twice, but it's kind of like ongoing and ever-flowing, and like she said, you know, the ongoing escalator, like you go up and it keeps going up, and then maybe it changes levels, but then it's always like going upwards. And it feels good to hear how you heard it, because I think we both, you know, feel the same way. So that was cool.
Yeah. And how about her story?
It was the same for her. It was.
You both talked about motherhood.
Yeah, immediately we both said, you know, I think the most amazing thing I've done is given birth, and I was like, oh my God, me too. So, but for her, it was, you know, she's traveled the world, she's manifested a lot of really great things in her life, but none of them really have given her back. I think that's really what I got. None of them have given her back the love and everything that she gets from being a mother as much as she gets from her kids by getting the opportunity and the privilege to be their mom.
Okay, great, excellent. So Terry and Ray, I listened to, and Terry's story was that he, she's number 7, right, Terry?
Yes.
He thinks the most remarkable thing he's ever done is marry for the 7th time. That after 6 wives and a life of so many disappointments and so many failures, that he literally decided to try it one more time. And this one stuck for how many years?
23.
23 years. Right, so that's remarkable, and kudos to Marilyn as well. There she is. So, and also, yes. Hi, Marilyn. We're applauding you. Okay, and then Ray talked about, Ray was having trouble finding something that he that he felt that he had accomplished, or something that was remarkable in his life, until he then discovered in that moment that, well, wait, he actually learned to be a pilot, you know, and actually to fly a plane and learn everything that you need to learn in order to be a pilot, which for me, I can't even imagine what you would have to learn in terms of taking a plane up into the air. I get lost on the road when I can see it. So, so what do you think about that, Ray?
Well, yeah, you know, and I just couldn't think of anything at the time, but now that I listen to everybody speak about some of their remarkable experiences, a couple remarkable things come up about that activity. I can remember doing aerobatic training over the Queen Mary at Long Beach, and I thought that was a little remarkable. And I can remember flying from Little Rock to Houston on the Gage's instrument, not with autopilot at that time. And I got to Houston, and I was pretty low on fuel, and they said, "Hey, why don't you, you know, just wait, just do a few turns out there. We got to land this Lear jet." So I'm out there with not enough fuel to last for too many more minutes, really. And I told him, I says, well, I think I'm coming down one way or the other, so I'd like to land. So anyways, I got in anyway.
That's good.
I think there's a lot of remarkable stories that I experienced out of flying, and a lot of them I sometimes wonder whether I want to forget.
I'm sure. Well, but you're a good person to end on. I don't think Anthony, did you do this with Devin?
Yes, we did. Thank you. Yes, we did.
Oh, you did. Okay, so tell me, Anthony.
Well, Devin's story. Well, not quite a story, but his something that he did that he felt was kind of remarkable was creating friends where he didn't think that he would be able to create friendships. You know, going to the camp, he was reluctant to go at first, and once he got there, he made lasting friendships and opened himself up to receiving the love of a lot of people that he didn't think that he would actually connect with. And he manifested that.
That's great. That's terrific. Okay, Devin, what about Anthony?
Those were your donations, by the way, you guys.
Yes, that's true.
So what he told me is that there was this time when he was 13, right? He was 13, and he just went through this breakup with a girl, and he was 13, so he thought it was like the biggest deal in the world. He got really angry at first, and literally started to control the wind. And as he got angry, the wind would get more and more mighty and hard and blowing harder and stuff. And then he realized that, was able to calm down a little bit to kind of question the situation. He wasn't as angry anymore, and the wind started to calm down. And he realized what was going on, and he started to get angry again about thinking about the situation again. The wind would respond, and it was like and he felt completely connected at 13. And it's something that he always looks back on and will always find just as remarkable as just when it happened.
That's great. Wow. Remind me never to be around you when you're angry. That's good. That's good. Thank you, guys. Okay. Anthony, that's pretty impressive. I'm glad you're not so angry these days.
James?
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about Lori.
Oh, Lori Savage. Forgot you. Sorry.
Lori had a very interesting experience when she moved to California. She was very phobic and wouldn't even go out of the house. And she made herself.
She was agoraphobic.
Agoraphobic. It wouldn't go out of the house, and she made herself do it. And look at her now.
And Lori, how long were you in the house?
For the most part, a couple years.
Yes. You know what's funny? I'm just saying this because I know you are so not agoraphobic anymore. You're out all the time. But you kind of look a little agoraphobic at the moment because your room is so dark and you're sitting in the dark. Yeah. No, Lori.
It took me like after 2 years, I couldn't even walk. I couldn't make it around my block. So I went from not being able to walk around the block to just in that moment making I'm going to die or do something different to change. What was the thing that scared me the most? And that's what I came up with. Moving 3,000 miles away would scare me the most. So that's what I did.
So you went from agoraphobic to moving 3,000 miles.
Yeah. When I told my mom, she said, "You can't even go to the mall. You know, what are you thinking?" And I had to, or die. I mean, it was really, that was the decision. So I forget that, you know?
And look at you now. Terry's right. Look at you now. You are such a powerful woman. She's been on our board. She is in charge of, how funny, you're in charge of outreach. I mean, I never put those two and two together. The head of the outreach circle. Okay, so Lori's a perfect person to end on, actually. So the question becomes, where does this power come from? Where does it come from? Everything you've all talked about, you know, Lynn, finding empathy and love in you in a way that you never thought was there for another person, and to be with them through that part of their life, which is a very difficult part of someone's life. You know, we sometimes conditions come along that catapult us to a place where it's always been there. It's who we are. You know, it was always there for you to win an Emmy. It was always there for you to, and it is now, for you to create whatever you want to create. Tapping back into that, remembering that again. You know, your dive, metaphorically speaking, dive again. Just dive into something else. The perfect dive into whatever it is you choose. Right? That's what we're really looking at here. And do you recognize your power? Do you really absolutely recognize it? You know, for me, I would say that this last weekend was probably one of the most remarkable things, because on Thursday night I was still needing a script and I could not remember what some of the scenes were, and I would literally be in the middle of a scene and just go blank. And I just was like, and there was a great deal of fear that I would literally go blank, and it's not like another actor was going to pull me out of it. So, and it was, you know, and I couldn't, I just thought, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And when the weekend was over, I really thought to myself, it's just proof that when you really turn it over and let the power come through you, you just do it. You just, and that's the thing. You just do it. And as Laurie said, you have a choice. You're gonna be the power, or you're just gonna die. Which one is it? Which one's it gonna be? Because guess what? You can die 1,000 deaths throughout your lifetime and just have a lifetime of deaths, quiet desperation throughout the rest of your life. Or you can just decide to move 3,000 miles and step outside of whatever that thing is that keeps you out of the power, and step out of it and right into your power. That's really what this whole 9 weeks have been about. Troward is a master at identifying what power we do have. He said this: we should present ourselves before the eternal spirit free from every trace of inversion. We should present ourselves before the eternal spirit free from every trace of inversion. To do this means to present ourselves in likeness of the divine ideal. The divine ideal. Doug, what's the divine ideal?
Love and beauty.
Okay, that's yours. That's perfect. Give me Troward's. Do you know Troward's? Similar.
I thought it was love.
It is. It's the same thing. The divine ideal is the highest level of consciousness, or the highest level of expression that we could think of, living at that highest level. So, what is inversion? What does he mean by inversion here? You were like,
Can you clarify?
yeah, were you reading it going, what? What is that? We should present ourselves before the eternal spirit free from every trace of inversion. What do you think, Eric?
Well, going back to what was the last class, Prosperity Plus, where I talk about revelations, whatever the truth is in Uninvertible. You know, like the truth is always the truth,
Right.
from whatever direction you look at it.
Right. So then what's Troward saying about inversion? If the truth is always the truth, it can't be inverted to a non-truth. So what is he saying? We should free ourselves from every trace of inversion. What do you think he means? Eric?
Is it not recognizing our power?
Yes, it's just recognizing something other than. Basically, to me, inversion means duality. To me, it means that you have somehow bought into a dualistic understanding that there's this, but then there's also this, and there's not. As I think David said, you know, the absolute is the relative at the level of the relative, not unfortunately at the level of the absolute. The absolute is the relative is the absolute at the level of the relative. So, you know, it's up to you. So what he says is we should present ourselves before the eternal spirit, meaning we should literally say, here I am, and not bring all of our mishigash with us, and not bring all of our false beliefs, all of our failures, all of the stuff that we see as failures that we actually, if we were really evolved, would know that they weren't failures. It was just the perfect evolution of our lives. Right? So that's what he's saying here. And then he says to do this means to present ourselves in likeness to the divine ideal. And again, present ourselves doesn't mean present ourselves to something, like to God. How could I present myself to myself? Well, I can, I guess, by saying, I am. I am. Just saying, I am, and knowing that what follows that is the truth. Okay. This was a great sentence. We can never create a source, but we can only specialize it. This is one of his famous sayings, that you and I, we are never, ever creating. And Ernest Holmes puts it in the textbook as well. So Troward says we can never create a source, we can only specialize it. Ernest Holmes says we never create. You do not create. You allow. Because what could you create? You can't create anything of yourself because all exists already. But you allow. You reveal. Right? So we can... Yeah.
Just because that places me separate from the creator. If I don't create, then I am the creator.
Okay, let me rephrase it then, so so everybody gets it this way. You and I hate to do it this way because then I'm talking about two things, but I don't want to be talking about two things. The drop never creates. The ocean is the creative essence of the universe. But you are the all of the ocean in the drop. But when you are individualized, you're never creating, you just are. It's all there. But you get to specialize it, as Troward says. You get to decide, you know what, I'm going to specialize this and produce my play, produce my movie, my TV movie, get an Emmy. I'm going to specialize this into this amazing production that I want to do. That's all of this specialized into this. But this is still part of all of this. He's never really created it, but he has specialized it and taken it and used it and focused it. Make sense? That's what I mean. But Ernest Holmes says...
The concept of substance.
Mm-hmm.
So substance is not created by us, but substance is something that we can specialize. We can form.
Yes. Substance is the inevitable result of the creative process, which I didn't create the creative process. Well, I did as the ocean, not as the drop.
Right.
As the individualized expression of God, I get to use all of this. If I actually get out of the way, it uses me, which is really the better way to go, frankly. Make sense? Okay. All right. Let's talk about Jesus.
Yes.
I'm going to turn the class over to Heather now. Jesus. Yeah. So, what did Troward believe about Jesus from reading the chapter? What do you think? Anybody? Terry Taylor, you're about to teach this on tomorrow night. What does Troward teach about Jesus?
I'm going to be guessing, but that he was in the fifth realm majority of the time in a higher consciousness, and believed that he could create miracles and make a big difference.
Okay, did you read the chapter?
No.
Yeah, okay. Let me try someone who read the chapter. Gary, did you read the chapter?
Yes, I did, but I read it over and over again, and frankly, I was confused by that. He talks about cause and effect, which was a big part, and I was trying to grasp what he was meaning, so I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to be sorry, because you know what? It was a very, very dense, little convoluted part there. Yeah, I loved it too, but it can be dense. Yeah, David?
Sure. Jesus or the Christ as the go-between, the mediator, the means by which we as human beings, I'm kind of paraphrasing what I believe Troy was saying, could communicate or connect with God or have a better understanding of that which is God. Christ was that medium by which we would be able to do that.
Yep.
See, I thought when Jason was reading it to me, I felt like what he was saying, he talks about the symbols, and that Jesus, the man Jesus, was the symbol of that 0 point between spirit and matter, where you pass through that and you recognize your union with the divine at all times, and you have now the ability to control matter and to create or to co-create with all that is.
Yep. Perfectly put. Between the two of you. Yes. Perfect. Yes, Craig?
I'm thinking the idea of specialization in the personal. So as I got it, I think it was that Jesus represented this specialization while also maintaining the complete universe, the drop and the ocean.
Yes.
Specialization and the universal.
That's great, guys. Absolutely. David?
Based on that concept, that Jesus as the Son of God was also the Son of Man. And something we often forget, something that Christians rarely repeat. It talks frequently about Jesus being the Son of God. But Jesus constantly referred to himself as the Son of Man as well. And that was that sense of that oneness of the divine ideal, mankind in its divinity.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, he came through a womb. He didn't just appear. All right. So you've already hit it all. I'll just go over it again. So, Son of God, Son of Man, the mediator, that which is between two things that are really one thing. And his whole teaching was we reach the Father through the Son, and in doing so, recognize they are one thing. I and the Father are one. And this is all what Troward taught. The mediator between the human and the divine, that Jesus became the metaphor for us to actually the way, finding some aspect of his Christ consciousness that allowed us to actually see. I mean, I believe that if what he really taught had been understood and adhered to, we'd be in a very different world today. Christianity would be a very different religion than it is, but it's not. But I believe we are embodying more of what Jesus taught, what actually taught, the concept of the power being right here. You are the power. It's done unto you as you believe. I and the Father are one. And yes, the mediator between the human and the divine, trying to get us to understand it's one thing, just one thing. And when he talks somewhere in the Bible, when he talks about I go to the Father, meaning I go to my highest level of consciousness to create, to know. Don't we do that in treatment? That's what we're doing. We don't say I go to the Father, which certainly no practitioner is going to say that here. I would have a heart attack.
One thing that Jesus, he taught in parables. He taught in parables for a reason, because the concepts that we're understanding are literally learning how to work with the law to manipulate matter and to bring through love in the highest form for everyone.
Yeah.
But the thing is that because there are two sides that play themselves out, because there are those who understand how to use this law not with a pure heart.
Right.
And there's all kinds of demonstration that we see in our world, because there is there, the higher you rise, the more humility you recognize is needed, and the more you recognize that to wield this kind of power requires being in service to all.
Mm-hmm. Or else the power ends up being destructive, even to the person using it. Inverted. Very good. Yes. And wait, you just said something. Oh God, what did you just say that I wanted to jump on, but then you kept going, which I thought I just didn't want to stop. I wanted to hear what you were saying. Well, it's left me, whatever it was.
The two things, the two sides.
No.
The parables.
Oh, the parables. Thank you. So, I mean, absolutely, it was the parables. Yeah, because if you think about the parable of the mustard seed, what's he teaching? That everything is present in the individual, that the macrocosm, the full enchilada is present right there in the seed. And that's the power. And the power is in the seed. You don't have to wait till you become this, evolved being to have the power. That's not it. We all think that they're the ones that have the power. The power is right here, right there.
I think it's also like in the parables he spoke of, and how like any great master teacher, it's accessible at any different level of consciousness. Mm-hmm. So you have access to the power at the common folk who thinks it's about a story about bread.
Yes, right.
Or if you understand the different levels of consciousness, it's actually a whole different layer and level of teaching, of going up to the mount, going up to a level of higher consciousness, as opposed to just taking a hike up the mountain.
Right, because you wanted the view?
Yeah, so wherever you're at in consciously, you still have access, but it's at varying degrees going back and forward of progressive evolution, but you don't need to wait until this point to have access to it.
Okay, so does everybody get that? Does everybody get that? None of us need to wait until we know more. There's nothing to wait for. And this whole concept of teaching at the level of entry, it doesn't matter what level of entry you're at. You can just, look at your dive, you're at a certain level, but then all of a sudden you tap something and boom, it happens. Because it's available, because it's who we are. Okay, salvation. Does anybody want to tell me what he means by salvation? What Troward? Lynn, what did you think? Do you remember what he said about salvation?
Honestly, I read it so long ago.
Yeah, it's my fault. I know. Jan, do you remember what he said about salvation? You're looking it up. Okay, he said, salvation is the logical unfoldment of the next stage of the limitless capacities of our being. Let me say it again a little slower. Salvation is the logical unfoldment of the next stage of the limitless capacities of our being. I was having a lunch on Monday, brunch on Monday morning, with a woman who had a best-selling book about dying. She died at the age of 13. She froze to death, and they brought her back a couple of hours later. And so she had this amazing near-death experience, and which is how I ended up meeting Anita Marjani when I met her, because she introduced me to Anita Marjani. I've seemed to now be in the circle of all the near-death experience people. I have not had that experience. I'm not actually looking for one. But it was fascinating on Monday when we were talking about her near-death experience. She is building this $1 billion thing called the Museum of Consciousness. And it's just spectacular. Her husband is the richest man in Florida. And she has all these people coming in to put this together. And she was explaining to me one part of the museum, which is kind of like a Disney ride. You get on it, and then it takes you through a near-death experience. You go into a room, and everything goes, all walls go. You are taken through this light experience. And I actually talked to her about you, because there's a whole section of the museum about sound. And when she was explaining this to me, and I've been on this project for over a year now, and I've been on it because I knew there was something in it. Something, they asked me to be a part of it, so I said yes, but I didn't know why I was saying yes. And I just kept going with the evolution of it. For the first time, and I have goosebumps now, for the first time on Monday as she explained it to me, I got it. And I said to her, you've just hit clarity for me. And it was so powerful, the thought of it. And what she said was this. She said, here's the thing. You know, we all teach, and she watches every Sunday. I mean, she's a very loyal watcher. And she said, you know, you say this all the time, and all these master teachers teach this, that life is eternal, that we don't really die, the body just goes. She said, but have you ever thought about what that really means? What it really means? She said, so I died. So I went from where the body was done, and I just kept going. She said, it was amazing, joyful, nothing to be afraid of. It was beautiful. And she said, and I didn't get visited by angels, and Jesus didn't show up and say anything to me. She said, it was just a knowing, a feeling. And she said, and I didn't suddenly have all the keys to the kingdom. I was the same exact person. I didn't die and become evolved. That kind of doesn't make sense to me in this law of cause and effect. Why? Death is such a brilliant thing that you've done that you get wisdom because you got hit by a truck? It just doesn't make sense, does it? So she said, you're the same person, but you kind of dropped all the crap. So you're just kind of, and now what's coming? He's saying the same thing here. Salvation, rather than thinking salvation, I'm going to be saved at the end of my life and meet the face of Jesus, which I'd love to see the face of Jesus, but that's not my be-all, end-all purpose of life. Salvation is the logical unfoldment. Because as I was reading this, I went, this is what she was talking about, Monday. The logical unfoldment of the next stage of the limitless capacities of our being. Yes, that's all. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're really here to understand. But what if we went through our lives with less fear about death? What if we went through our lives really understanding our capacity for limitless life? And we didn't get caught up in all of these physical manifestations, you know, our bodies. We spend so much time, you know, I have one more day left of BODS. It's been a phenomenal 6-week journey for me. But what I got from it more than anything is that it's time for us to take our attention off our bodies and stop being so friggin' concerned with our bodies, because frankly, it's causing our bodies to blow up, to morph, to be pain bodies. And if we are just willing to go here, our bodies will follow. And that's true with everything, absolutely everything in our lives. Here, my life evolves. Here, success. Here, creativity. Here, love. It's not about the outside in, it's about the inside out. So that's salvation, according to Troward. Just keep that in mind, what he says. Salvation is the evolution, the logical evolution of life as it constantly manifests a higher level of understanding. That's salvation. And then he says, we shall find on every plane the way, the truth, and the life are one. It sounded very Christian when I read it the first time, but it's so perfect. The way, the truth, and life are one thing. My life is the way. My life is the truth. My truth is my life. It's just, if you take it any way you want. Okay, that was chapter 9. Chapter 10 in 6 minutes. Okay. But you know what? It's not that hard to do chapter 10. 6 minutes, to be honest. Did you all like chapter 10? Yes? The divine offering?
I got it.
Wasn't it great? Okay, so first of all, he starts the chapter talking about the inverted use of creative power. And it's what Heather was talking about. Hitler used the creative power in an inverted way. We're seeing a lot of it right now. But rather than point to the obvious, I'd like you to just think to yourself, where do you think it's possible that you are using this, your power, your creative power, in an inverted way? It's the teens, they come in right about now. Right? Where are you inverting the truth? Where are you buying into things that perhaps if you just flipped it, you'd see the truth? He says, as far as sacrifice here, I love this. He says, God does not demand sacrifice. Man demands sacrifice. Now, here's the thing. Man is God, however. Man is God. So therefore, God does demand sacrifice because I am God. So I had to read this and go, wait a minute. it's a great sentence. God doesn't demand sacrifice, man does. But once again, we've put two of them separate and created a duality. But if man is God, and I believe I am God, then I only demand sacrifice when I am at a certain level of consciousness that demands sacrifice. And why would I demand sacrifice? I think through an inversion, an inverted way of thinking, or I don't know any other way to grow. I don't know any other way to learn. And so what do? We end up depriving ourselves. We end up causing situations that we do have to sacrifice. And if that's our only way to learn, because that's the level we're at, then sacrifice is serving a purpose. But it's at that level. The question is, do you believe 100% that you no longer need, as Ernest Holmes said, the time has come when there is no more need for suffering. There is no more need for sacrifice. There is no more need for these experiences that teach us something. The time has come for us to understand we already know. And I no longer need to court that part of my life. So do you all get that about sacrifice? Because I know I can get into discussions with people about, but sometimes, these things come along and they're very useful and they help us. Yes, they do. But the question is, do you want to learn that way? Do you want to learn about prosperity through struggle? Or do you want to learn about prosperity by literally taking your divine inheritance and remembering who you are? You're going to get the same result. Maybe not even, but it's your choice. Do you want to learn about health by having to fight cancer? Well, apparently I did. I needed to find out just how powerful and how strong I was to put myself through literally 4 months of hell. I never want to do that again. Ever, ever, ever. I don't need to learn that way anymore. And I'm clear about that. I'm clear about that. So that's really what this last chapter is all about. Can you invert your way of thinking? Can you invert your beliefs? Find those core beliefs, pull them up, go, yeah, you don't serve me anymore. It does not serve me to think this is a difficult world. It doesn't serve me to think the industry is difficult and I can't get ahead at this point. It doesn't serve me to think that I'm too old to accomplish what I want to accomplish. That does not serve me. Turn it around. Invert it. Make sense? Okay. He says, past sins cease to have any part in self-recognition and consequently cease to have any place in the world of existence. So let me read it again. Past sins means missing the mark, those things that you didn't do successfully. Past sins cease to have any part in self-recognition and consequently cease to have any place in the world of existence. What does he mean? Past sins cease, let's start with just that part. Past sins cease to have any part in self-recognition. Well, what he's saying is, in order for you to reach that fifth kingdom, you must not self-recognize as someone with past sins. You must not self-recognize as this person as everything that has brought you here. Because these are just facts. I met with someone today who was going through a rehab, and this person was at church just recently, and he said that something I said in church that just literally hit him to the core was when I said something about you are not your past. Tell that to a drug addict. You are not your past.
I do.
And if they believe you, they can let it go. They can let all that go. Same thing for us. We don't have to be drug addicts. We can have our own issues. So that's what he means. Past sins cease to have any part in self-recognition, when you're willing to recognize yourself as the truth. And consequently, cease to have any place in the world of existence, which means, therefore, all of this will no longer create all of this. If you're willing to say, you don't exist, this is who I am, then what's coming forth is from this, not that. So that's what he's talking about. So what's he really talking about? Secondary causation. So he's talking about this, sissy boy, he's talking about this at the circle here. He's talking about this is the first half of it. Your self-recognition. If your self-recognition is all the facts of your life, you're going to bring it back up here and experience it again in a different way. in a new and improved way. Okay, that was that. That's it for that chapter. Look at that, 9:30. Yeah. So, homework for next week. Our last chapter is Ourselves in the Divine Offering, chapter 11. Okay? If you are taking this course for credit and planning on moving to practitioner class next year, I need your term paper next week, which is an essay on what this class brought up and what you've learned and accepted from this book and our discussions in class. So what this essay is your understanding of what you picked up here and how you've expanded from this. What you're willing to say, you know what? This is what I now believe, or this is what I've always believed. However it comes out for you. Okay? And the Ernest Holmes class, which I think most of you have to take, or anybody who's going into practice does, except David, you don't have to, obviously, starts on March 2nd, just so you know. It was supposed to start on the 24th, but thank God I looked at the calendar today. I'm in Salt Lake City for the conference.
So there's a week between.
There's a week between, yes.
One of these and.
Yes, isn't that nice?
Yes.
Yes. Who's talking? Go ahead. Margaret? Martha? Margaret. I called Martha Margaret now.
No, first I was saying yes for the break and thank you. But do we have questions for chapter 10? Because I've looked through everything.
There are no questions for chapter 10.
Okay, and are there for any for 11?
No.
Okay,
Now you just have to do the essay.
there's no essay.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, any final questions or ahas or thoughts or anything?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I know that you touched on the subject.
I'll do it.
You touched on the subject of Christ. You know, I know that it's kind of Trower went fully into it. I know he comes from that background. But as I read it, something where Heather and I from the emerging Christians that are coming, they're going, wait, I love Jesus, but I'm not seeing it here. But I have an intuitive knowing that Christ is an essential principle that I'm excited to read that because it reaffirms what I spent 10 years of traditional Christianity believing that it was the right thing. The world believed that this was going to save the planet. And I believe it still is. This true Christic principle of what this being known as Yeshua embodied a principle.
When you say you're not seeing it here, you're talking about at the Global Truth Center?
I just personally in my life, I don't want to back away from Christ.
No, nor do I. As you know, I'm working on that book called Saving Jesus from the Christians. Right. I'm trying to find a different title that's not so antagonistic. Because I would like it to actually sell. Although they might want to read it just to see what I'm saying. Well, that's the last title I ended up with. Yeah, just Saving Jesus, which is kind of interesting. Yes. Paradox. Yeah, juxtapositioning. So yes, absolutely. And I had a long talk today with Sarah Goodson, and you'll be happy to know that I'm actually going to Mosaic to their services in 2 weeks, just to get a sense of, because I believe that. Yeah, because I believe that Christianity has a lot to offer, but I also believe that Christianity has a lot that can harm people at this point and not teach them that they are powerful, but in fact teach them that they are less than. And when I see thousands of the younger the millennials rushing to these big conferences about where they're really not made to be, they're not being empowered, they're being boxed in. What Sarah and I have talked about is that it's time for us, this teaching, new thought, to go after that generation and say, no, let's empower you. Let's not tell you you're less than, let's empower you. So yes, I'm very much in there. And I do want Jesus to be a big part of that. Connie.
No, it's me, Judge.
Oh.
Troward has taken me to Lipton. And
To where?
to Lipton.
Bruce
The-
Lipton. Bruce.
Oh, Lipton. I was like, is that a part of the country?
And it's so amazing to read Schroer, both the Edinburgh lectures and this book, and then read Bruce Lipton's book that takes us from an amoeba to life and humanity and the higher consciousness of what we really are, and can prove it scientifically in ways that I'm blown away by the fact that we can actually prove this in a way that people may not refute it anymore.
Well, Bruce Lipton, before Craig says he's been debunked.
I didn't say that. I'm not saying that.
But Bruce Lipton comes very close to scientifically.
Right.
Well, first of all, he states it in such a brilliant scientific way, and I taught the biology of belief a couple of years ago, was it? I don't know. Did you take that class? I forget. It lost most people, even though I did my best to really simplify it. I still don't think he's there yet. I love what he's saying. It's still, when you read it, it's still, you can say it's proof, but first of all, the God particle, finding the Higgs boson, right? I was going to say the Biggs boson, the Higgs boson.
You say it.
You say boson, I'll say boson. Even with that being, it wasn't, they call it the God particle, but what they just mean is that this one particle is responsible for the creativity, creating so much around it, that everything comes from it. But in the end, and I saw this on some talk on PBS, in the end, scientifically speaking, there's something behind that. If you were going to go to God, there's something behind that, because it was a priest or somebody, a rabbi, and this scientist saying, yes, we can call it the God particle, and yes, it is intrinsic to all creativity, but what's behind that? So I don't know that we're ever really I don't know that right this second we have the scientific proof of all of this, but certainly it's going deeper and deeper, which is nice. Yeah. So, we ready to close? Let's take a deep breath. Thank you, everybody online, for your attendance tonight and your being here. Liza, thank you for that. Whatever, did you set up your picture? Doesn't she look like she's on a movie set?
Yeah.
It's so great. I love the picture of the guy behind you. It's all perfect.
Hendrix.
Oh, is it Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah.
That's Jimi Hendrix.
What? Jimi Hendrix. Oh, okay, good.
And my kid's artwork.
And your kid's artwork, perfect. Okay, so let's know in the shadow of Jimi Hendrix, recognizing that it's all God, meaning it is all this incredible energy, this oneness, this awesome intelligence that uses me, that lives me, that is me. And I'm so grateful to every single person in this room, online, every single person that contributed to this wonderful discussion. And I appreciate and I give such gratitude for every person's willingness to share, to tap into their power and to bring it forth and to remember it and to be able to hear it played back. Because what I know is that all there is this power, this infinite power. And it's what I am, it's who I am, it lives me, it thinks me, it breathes me. And I get to use it and to shape it and to specialize it for my purposes. And those purposes that match the good of the universe. And so what I know is that as we leave here tonight, we leave here with just that much more fire in the belly for this truth that we are all discussing, for this truth that we are all experiencing. And we take it from this room out into our world. And we can't help but allow it to just manifest more and more and more and more. And so I know tonight is a beautiful night. We all make our way home safely, easily, peacefully, have a beautiful evening of rest, and the sun will rise and set and rise and set every moment of every day. And this is the truth. And I'm so grateful to know it. I just step aside and allow it to be so, as together we all say, and so it is. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody online. Okay. Fun.
Sunday, right?